the target. I'll just reiterate what I just said, that a lot of nonprofits do a lot of good work, and for $125,000 that used to be in the budget to reduce to $8,000 is pretty unbelievable for a city this size and with the gang prevention needs that you have. I mean, that's what people paid their taxes for, and that was the intent. So I just would really ask you to reconsider appropriating some more money to the Measure S, and whatever you can do to change that is would be appreciated, because it just seems so important for the things that we do with the kids. We keep them off the streets after school every day, and SAM's does the same thing, but would really appreciate you reconsidering. Thank you.
Motion. This is very difficult to understand. Again, remember, these are recommendations being brought to you by staff. Staff who came in biased against Boys and Girls Club and against SAM Academy. Vocally were biased even before becoming members of the COC, stating they were against nonprofits. Bias because you had 2 staff members or 2 individuals and 1 staff member on the committee reading the proposals. Already no chance for any of the nonprofits to even be considered. There's something wrong with this process. I've asked repeatedly in the past for public representation in reading the proposals. You cannot have staff who own a stake in this. That's called a conflict of interest. Making a decision about who gets funding and how much funding from Measure S. We spend a lot of time writing proposals, Diane and I. We do this for a living. Measure S isn't the only program that we apply for. It's the principle of the thing here. Mr. Perez, it's the principle of the thing here. You put out an RFP, a request for proposals, asking for people to submit. We work really hard to improve our writing, our goals, objectives, our budgets, specifically for the program we're proposing to do. And then to be told that in the guidelines, well, you're already excluded. If you're SAM Academy or if you're Boys and Girls Club, you're probably not going to receive anything. That's bias. That's a conflict of interest. I can't understand that. I really call for this whole process to be null and void, start over with a new committee, an unbiased committee, to read the proposals and make recommendations after you have increased the line item to $125,000 for the nonprofits. It's already stated confusion how the great program got moved to operations, taking the Measure S money with it, and then magically being eliminated from that rule that says they have to be funded no more than 50% of the total Measure S. I mean, there's something not comprehensible in this whole picture. You're being manipulated by staff. And you're passing these recommendations, and I can't believe it, guys. You have to read and think, please. I'm getting a little bit off track, but again, we're fighting for the kids. We run a good program for the kids. None of the funding comes to us personally. It all goes to the kids. Please look at our request. Please look closely at our budgets. Please consider seriously our requests. And this is for everybody that may apply, past, present, and future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I got to serve on the ad hoc committee for the nonprofits last year, And I came with 1,000 questions for the grade officer, and I was told I wasn't allowed to ask questions about the grade officer because she was already pre-approved for funding, and there was no questions to be asked of her. She was gonna get funded, even though she only works a school calendar, but she was getting a full year of a salary. But that aside, we had 3 applications last year, and one was right off the top, just thrown out the window because the amount requested was just a crazy amount. The other one we couldn't do because they prophesized in it. That only left the Boys and Girls Club and SAM's Academy, and it left me and Sue with the fire chief, and I was amazed at how many tabs of paper the fire chief had tabbed in the SAM's Academy application. He didn't have that many in the Boys and Girls Club, and he only asked majority of his questions for SAM's Academy. Later, I heard City Council spreading rumors about SAM's Academy's tax returns amounts. I found that very discriminatory against SAM's Academy because they do a wonderful program here for our children. My son loves to go when they're at his school and make little cars. No, he's not gonna be able to do that. He might not be able to do that. Who says that Sam's gonna stay here? He doesn't have city support. He doesn't have Measure S support. He has the community support, but he needs help with the funding. This year I was contacted by nonprofits out of concern because our March meeting, sorry, I had a blood clot at the beginning of the year. The March meeting was canceled for no reason. I wasn't given a reason. I highly doubt any of you were given a reason on why the March meeting was canceled. I highly suspect that before that meeting was canceled, the wording changed in the nonprofit that said if you were previously awarded, you weren't going to be recommended to be awarded again. And that never came to us. Do you guys recall that? Because that never came to us. They're changing our rules without our permission, without our acknowledgement, and shame on them and shame on us. Not me too much anymore. So they changed the wording on the nonprofits to say they're not going to be funded if they were funded again or before. And then they canceled our meeting. Our meeting was going to be the day before the nonprofit applications were due. It could just be a coincidence. I don't know, but it smells kind of fishy that they're going to cancel our meeting, our one meeting that the nonprofits had a chance to reach out to us as a committee as a whole and tell us that they're changing the rules on us and we didn't know. I hope that you guys do not send this recommendation to council. Boys and Girls Club is a part of our community. They fill our community center more often than anybody else does. Where are those kids gonna go? Where are they gonna go? People are concerned about the nonprofit for the low-income housing affecting their property values. Where do they think the kids that are going to the community center, where are they gonna go? How are they gonna affect our property limit values? Where are the Boys and or the SAM's Academy, where are those kids gonna go? They're gonna go to the streets. They're gonna go out to Clovis, they're gonna go to Fresno because they have the resources. They have the committees and the council people that are willing to support them.
First, the $8,000, is that total between SAM's Academy and the Cub Scouts? Or is it 8,000 each?
It's for the it's the total, right? It's for
Total nonprofit
It's
for
total.
Measure S? What percentage of the Measure S money is spent on nonprofits, on helping our children have a place to do stuff and keeping them safe? I mean, this isn't making any sense. You guys just sit up there and yes, 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 approved. Somebody's gotta stop this. It's just not right. That you must know the importance of these, at least these 2 places. And there should be more places like this in town, but if this is the support they get, I can understand why they wouldn't be here. You know, we have a lot of children in Sanger, and they need a lot of help. And I just can't believe you guys are gonna sit there and push this on through. I hope that isn't what happens, because there needs to be more discussion about it. This is our money, you know, and it's not being spent for what we were told it would be when they were pushing Measure S. You know, they redid it before it was really up, because the person that was pushing it the most apparently has more control of the money than anybody else, because you guys aren't doing it. Our council people are, I don't know where their heads are. but they're not helping the kids at all. So, somebody needs to put a stop to this.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. And if you wanna see, as a member of the public, if you wanna see how effective SAM Academy is, show up there on Saturday morning, any Saturday morning, and go in there and look and see what the kids are doing. And you'll see what it's all about.
You guys need to see what it's all about.
I've been there.
Handle things.
It looks like there's an issue with nonprofits, but you have to remember, those funds are for the youth and the children.
Correct.
Okay, it's for the youth and children. So nonprofits are facilitators, that's it. But they also are really known as community benefit organizations. I actually have been involved in grants, lots of them that contract city-sponsored programs, and those that contract community benefit organizations. So I work with both, and I support both so much. I think we have a problem that invalidates this grant process. This is really hard for me because, I have to point out, call one of you out. And it's hard for me because we have on record in June 2017, one of your reviewers had stated that the grant funds are only for, or Measure S funds are only for police and fire. That was in June 2017, and it's on record. The problem with that is, that's after the Measure S extension election. And all of that documents do include and specify not reducing gang prevention programs. You have a responsibility to protect these Measure S funds. Okay, this was in the Measure S extension. So you're going to be violating the extension. Now, if voters become aware of that, some may have a problem with that. And I want to protect these funds. I want to protect these funds for our police, our fire, and our children and youth. And I'm really baffled by this amount of funding because it's such a small amount. Out of this $2 million of annual revenue, approximately, give or take a little bit, it's such a small amount, $100,000 or $117,000. So there was a prejudice that really interfered or invalidates your grants process. There's a prejudice. If you have a prejudice on record, that invalidates your grants process. So somebody else, I would really hope that city staff would understand that youth and children are needed of these services because they see them every day. And they can't take the time to provide this service. So, I support them so much, but I'm here today because the youth and children don't know how to ask or don't know how to question. And there's no voice here for them. So somebody has to be their voice. So this grants process did severely limit and exclude the public participation process because in 2017, you had 8 applications. There's a big disparity with this year. I noticed in the report you're stating about or something about the amount of funds provided to some of these nonprofits. That's 6 years. Over 6 years, that's roughly about $50,000. That doesn't even include their in-kind contribution. That's not accounted for in this report. Keep in mind the amount of resources that expends from a nonprofit community benefit organization. They have contribute to this project because it's not something that they do on a regular basis. They have other programs and services in youth development. This is specifically customized for gang prevention and intervention, which 97% socioeconomically disadvantaged children we have. Why are we changing our practices here? There's something wrong.
Thank you. 5. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and make a motion that we return this back to staff for reconsideration of the amount based on the testimony that we've heard here today. Obviously, it's important to a lot of people. It's important to me, it's important to this committee. And such a difference in the amount of money from one year to another is ridiculous, it's crazy. So I'm gonna make a motion now at this point that we send item G5 back to staff for reconsideration of the amount. Do we have a second?
I have some, just some thought, because what I'm hearing, what we're saying in a way, what staff's saying, and the people are saying. So I'm reading the ballot. It does, in fact, say on the ballot about drug and gang prevention, doesn't talk about nonprofits, except for the resolution 2012 that talked about putting money in nonprofits. And so the concern I'm having is, I'm hearing, if I'm not mistaken, that people believe that the majority of the Measure S money, the $2 million that's coming in, goes to nonprofits, and I don't think it's worded that way. And I don't know if anybody's ever sought to get clarification from city attorney to say, this is what the 2012 resolution means, this is what the 2016 ballot question approval meant. There's two separates, items there. It's like in 2008, nothing was talked about as far as grant for nonprofits, but again, 2012, resolution by the majority of the council made it that way. They didn't include how much was gonna go into the nonprofits, but they just said, we're gonna use nonprofits. So I could hear the argument back and forth coming. I think the clarification needs to be real time now. And that's what I'm hearing. I think there's so much confusion going around, and maybe we could get that clarification from the attorney saying, this is what the 2012 says, this is what the actual ballot says, and then what comes out of what. And I think that would maybe help people out and us out in a way. Because I'm thinking some of us are probably feeling the same thing, maybe, that money has to all come, or the majority. Because I'm hearing some of the people saying, I can understand why they're saying it, but on the ballot, it just says, gang and drug prevention programs. It doesn't go on to say nonprofits. And so, police could do those, right? So, and at the end of the ballot question, it'll say something in the area of all funds of the city of Sanger, all funds, Sanger Public Safety with a question mark. So, but I think the biggest question is the 2012 that allows the money to be used for nonprofits.
It doesn't specify any amounts or anything.
It doesn't specify the amount. I read it back and forth, and and I know that was one of the debates that they had, the council had a while back, because as a citizen, I spoke about that, knowing that the 2012 was there, and my argument was, that wasn't meant of the 2008 ballot, to have nonprofits. But because the council voted in 2012, that allowed the council to use it for the nonprofits. But there was no indication in that one that says how much funds should go to nonprofits. So 75, 50, 126, I mean, you could see in the budget how it went from the past. And I've looked at the past budgets, those budgets of the nonprofits or the gang prevention programs, they went up and down. Some were high, some were low in each couple of years. You could tell that, or maybe some were spent, and some were not all spent, So I think that's gonna be the key is, maybe the council has to figure it out, what they're gonna do with that 2012 resolution. And will the city attorney come back to tell us, the committee, and to the staff, and to the council, how do you use that mechanism for the nonprofits, since now nonprofits could be used? And that's the only reason why nonprofits could be used. It's not ballot. Ballot's not allowed to use it, but it is that resolution 2012, which still sits. It's still there. I don't think it went away after the new ballot in 2016. So the 2012 resolution is still there. But I could tell you my aspect, and if you don't mind me still speaking on the aspect being on the committee, I saw some that I think every nonprofit does an excellent job in our city and everywhere else. You know, I think we gave, you know, the city back then, not me, because I wasn't around, you know, gave quite a bit of money to a lot of them, you know, and stuff, and, I would love to see even more, you know, come in that meets whatever qualifications that has already been there. But we came to the conclusion because, yeah, there was 8,000, I mean, the other one was, you know, can the Pathway Leadership was 314,000. Can they do something? Because this is one that I was telling you that we looked at personally and said, hey, this might be something brand new that we could look and see how will they function, but 314,000, and we only put 75 or whatever, can they function with just that amount? That was one of the questions and concerns we had. And the other one was, you know, it is faith-based, we still have to be careful, and I'm strong support faith-based, but we still gotta be careful with the church and state issue, you know, and so on, but they were all good grants, but some have been there, you know, had some good amounts from the city before. And so what we did, looked at the 8,000 and said, you know, that's how much they kind of were spending with the scouts, and we felt that that was fairly new and everything. So that's just the thoughts that I have.
I understand. There's a motion on the floor to send this back to staff for reconsideration of the amount. It is quite a dramatic change in the amount from one point to another. I don't know if you can survive on $8,000 and do what you want to do, or what you should do, or what you can do.
But the 8,000 was only for the scouts.
Right.
That was it. You know, the Boy Scouts.
Correct. So my motion stands. The motion was made to send this back to staff for reconsideration of the amount of funds that were going to be made available to SAM Academy, specifically for the Boy Scout, the Cub Scout program. Do I have a second?
Girls and Boys Club.
Pardon me?
All nonprofit.
All
All
nonprofit.
nonprofit.
Right. So the 8,000, that's for all nonprofits?
No, that's just for the Boy Scouts.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, because it specifically says here, Cub Scouts, that's the little guys, right? So, do I have a second on my motion? No second, therefore, we're gonna have to go with the recommendation of staff that the Measure S Citizens Oversight Committee fund the SAM Academy's Cub Scout program for $8,000. Anybody wanna make that motion?
I mean, I'll make the motion to approve what the staff put in line, and it's gonna go to the council's gonna hear, and ultimately council, you know, could do what they want. There's up to 75,000 on there as well, you know, or we could make a move, but my motion is to approve what the staff has currently. Move it on to the council's decision.
Okay, do I have a second?
I think we need to rethink this. I'm not willing to move forward on the item based off of and you having some history with this, bringing to light that information and the information we're taking to the public. I think we do have a responsibility. And I think that we should probably stall all types of motions at this point, because we need more clarification. And I'm gonna break my silence here. I think we should. And I'm not comfortable moving forward.
So do we want to bring this back to staff then?
Well, going back to staff means who? Does it go back to the ad hoc committee that was making this original recommendation?
You know, when you said that, what I said about the city attorney, can we get a clarification regarding the 16 ballot and the 2012 resolution? And what will entail what it means by the money's being used by measures for nonprofits? Because I am hearing people from the public, which it sounds like they feel like the Measure S money, all of it, you know, or a big portion of it is supposed to go to nonprofits, and that's not what the ballot's saying. But I think the 2012, the hook, is what, to me, I just want to know what is, you know, is there a set amount, or if there wasn't, you know,
It was 125.
I'm sorry, but we have the thing closed to the public, we have to make sure that they stay quiet. It's already big.
But you're being dishonest. That's the problem.
That's pretty heavy, man.
That was the,
It's the truth, and I
It's the
can
truth.
prove it. I can prove it.
So recommendation is to have the city attorney look at the resolution and start all over again. Correct?
I wouldn't start all over again. I think we would be where we're at now. You know, the staff recommendation is still there and just get a clarification.
On what the money's supposed to be spent on, correct?
What the ballot really says and then what the true meaning of the 2012 resolution says.
So do we wanna send this back to the city attorney then for clarification?
Can we do that? Looking for the 3 staff members.
I'll do my best to answer this, and I'm open for anybody correcting me. Yes, I believe, my understanding is the recommendation is gonna be to get an opinion from the city attorney. And so far, what we've approved is a proposed budget, so now the 75,000, that's what we'll be taking forward to council. What they ultimately decide to do will be up to them, so that was approved by you. So right now, we won't be, if you make a recommendation that we get a city attorney's opinion, then we'll move forward with that, and we'll consider that this particular item did not get a vote. You know, there was no vote on the $8,000 recommendation. And if I'm incorrect, anyone please correct me if I got that wrong.
I'll make a motion and see what happens.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion just to table this where it's at now and get a city attorney's opinion on the 2016 ballot. So the question is, does that include the 2016 ballot, the right to use measureless money for nonprofits? So if the answer is no, then is 2012 resolution, or 2012, the resolution they have right now to allow it, what is allowed? So better clarification on that 2012.
So is that your motion, sir?
No, second.
If you guys understand what I'm saying.
No, hold on. So we're looking for clarification on the amount of money. So I don't think we need any more further clarification on that, yes or no, we can't spend money on nonprofits, because we can. We just need to figure out what that amount should be before we start throwing $8,000 on here, because that's clearly not enough.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah. I think that's the problem I'm having, is the amount. As far as do the nonprofits or do the Cub Scouts deserve it or not, it's not an issue. Everybody knows clearly how we stand on that. But my concern is the amount. That's just not enough money. It's just not enough.
And currently, we could make a motion on the 75,000 with that amount of money right now that we approved. And we could make a motion to do some of that too.
Remove the 8,000 and insert 75,000. Is that what you want to do?
But no, we have 75,000 that we approved. There's 75,000 approved for nonprofits right now.
There was only 8,000 used.
Only 8,000 being used so far, that we're saying.
Going to SAM Academy, okay. I just don't think it's enough. As well intended as we are.
So you guys have got to look at the grants. What was the amount that they asked for?
The other one was 314. Sam's Academy, I don't have it with me, 77. And then Boys and Girls Club was 35.
So we went from 35 to 8,000.
No, we didn't get any.
With what was recommended on,
Right.
For the committee, as far as not to fund previous and what, some of the other things that staff had said. That's why I said we can right now with the 75,000. I mean, we could hit the 8 for the scouts, and then whatever's rest, we could say, make a motion to say, you know, puts it in, you know, you get what I'm saying? So somebody could do that too. Because again, staff, like he said, it's just staff recommendations, so.
Okay, so do you have a motion, sir? Are you gonna make the motion?
I made that one motion, but I didn't know if somebody wanted to make to add money. I didn't know you guys, understood you guys, we could do that.
Are you gonna modify your motion? The motion's on the table, so we have to deal with it.
What motion, which motion?
The one I talked about?
Right.
I don't know if there was a second yet.
There's no second.
No, we were, because he had a question, so he was still asking some questions.
So we should restate your motion, sir, please.
Well, I was saying to take it, you know, to table this and then take it back for a little more clarity with the attorney.
Okay.
But he is right, you know, we do know the amounts, and, you know, 75,000. You know, and like Frank said, we're only using 8 out of the.
So your motion is that we send it back to the city attorney for an opinion? Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there wasn't a second on that.
Okay, so for my benefit, restate your motion.
I was saying to send it to the city attorney for the review of the ballot. You know, does the ballot clearly state that it could be used for nonprofit? But we know that it was actually 2012, the resolution that city council had.
So the motion.
But what I'm saying is, because I'm thinking some people are, and I could be wrong, I feel like people think that the ballot is saying that it's for a nonprofit as well. But I don't read it that way, but that's my opinion, but we could get definitely the city attorney's opinion.
Your motion's been made, do I have a second?
No second.
Please clarify the motion.
Clarify the motion, sir.
I'll take it back to the attorney to get clarity on the 2016 ballot
If it allows.
if it allows for nonprofits.
Why are you taking it back to the ballot when there's an ordinance that was already?
We can't let the public keep speaking, that's out of order.
Is the motion clear to you, Dick? No?
No, but I'll make up something.
Works for me, right?
Well, there's no second, right? Boys and Girls Club.
So if-
I'll make a motion, wait from the staff and then see what we'll do from here. So, my motion would be to add 35,000 to the Boys and Girls Club and the 8,000 to the, what was? Cub Scouts. That's my motion.
So a second,
So now you get, you know, 2
Yeah,
agencies have it. Is there a second?
a second,
was the second.
Second's been made. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
That's illegal.
What's that?
What about SAM Academy?
Just bluff through another one.
It's not illegal.
We good? We have a roll call ballot?
First, second, aye.
That was first.
First, second,
Second.
third, and me.
Aye. 4-0.
Call individual names and ask them how they vote.
Chair Perez,
Aye.
Member Montelongo,
Aye.
Member Valles,
Aye.
Member Villagomez,
Aye.